The U.S. Transportation Secretary speaking with News 9 today about his department's continued efforts at improving rail safety in light of the toxic train derailment in East Palestine. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dylan Cleland. News 9's Tyler Madden has more on the continued work of improving rail safety.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the Biden administration is holding Norfolk Southern accountable on a variety of fronts. The EPA is closely monitoring the continued cleanup work around the derailment site, and the Department of Transportation is making sure the railroad companies meet the safety requirements in place.
I think we need action, and we need action now.
Secretary Buttigieg speaking about the bipartisan work currently underway on Capitol Hill to increase rail safety, like the Railway Safety Act of 2023, introduced by Ohio Senators J.D. Vance and Sherrod Brown, and the Rail Act introduced in the House by Congressman Bill Johnson and Congresswoman Amelia Sykes. Buttigieg says measures in those proposed pieces of legislation are important, including the advance notification given to communities when hazardous materials are making their way through. But some in Congress pushed back on certain measures when the bills were first drafted, saying nothing should be changed until the entire investigation into East Palestine is complete.
These are good ideas no matter what. Sure, a year from now when the NTSB finishes its report, we may learn more that requires us to take even further steps based on their investigation's findings. But why should we wait for that to do anything at all? I don't want to wait a year while that report's being put together to have potentially more things happen in more communities like East Palestine that did nothing to deserve this.
This as the cleanup effort is still underway at the derailment site. Members of Congress have voiced concerns over the need to quickly remove the contaminated soil from the site.
We see these photos and videos of these piles of dirt that are stacking up next to and around that derailment site. This as the EPA is taking extra precautions to heavy rains coming in to prevent any of that contaminants from getting out of that site. What are your thoughts on how the cleanup process has gone to this point?
Having been to that site, having stood in the wreckage, smelled the chemicals, I understand why there is so much concern about making sure that every part of that cleanup happens in a way that is up to standard and that keeps the community safe.
You mentioned your trip a few weeks ago to East Palestine. When do you next expect to take a trip to East Palestine to continue to monitor and be on the ground to look at the status of that cleanup effort?
When I'll next get that opportunity, but I can tell you I'm looking forward to it because the people who I met on the ground, the community members who had their lives upended are people I really admired in terms of their resilience.
Buttigieg added that hundreds of millions of dollars in his department's proposed budget is set to go towards railway safety, with $760 million set aside to continue work on improving physical rail infrastructure across the country. Reporting for News 9, I'm Tyler Madden.